I remember that suffocating gray walls of my Chicago apartment closing in around me, a daily reminder of my soul-crushing data analysis job. Each day blurred into the next, and the fluorescent lights flickering overhead felt like an oppressive weight pressing down on my spirit. My camera, heavy and reassuring in my hand, was my only real escape from the endless spreadsheets and the beige monotony of existence. It cradled my dreams, moments I longed to capture beyond the confines of my reality. The weekend finally rolled around, igniting a flicker of hope within me. I craved something more than just routine. I needed nature to rejuvenate my spirit. As I drove toward Thornwood State Park, excitement bubbled inside me. Yet, as I arrived, I saw that the trail closed sign stretched across the path like a stark red ribbon warning me to turn back. A rebellious spark ignited within me. Who were they to dictate where I could wander? Ducking under the tape, I felt a thrill of forbidden adventure make my heart quicken. The cool Maine air washed over me like a refreshing wave, each breath invigorating. I decided to ignore the warnings. They were just barriers meant for others. Believing I was simply chasing a photograph and not a nightmare, I stepped onto the forbidden path with determination coursing through me. As I walked deeper into the woods, vibrant colors enveloped me, shades of green danced in the sunlight filtering through leaves above. My senses awakened, every rustle of leaves and chirp of distant birds painted an exhilarating backdrop to my journey. With each step, nature's pulse resonated within me, reminding me how alive I could feel outside those dull office walls. Suddenly, something caught my eye, a glimmer nestled between roots thick with age. Intrigued, I approached it cautiously. My heart raced as I discovered an old camera bag half buried in the earth's embrace. It looked weathered yet sturdy, as if it had tales of its own hidden inside. Curiosity surged. What stories did this camera hold? Who had left it here? I knelt down and began digging it out. The zipper was stubborn at first but eventually relented under my persistent tugging. Inside lay an early Canon digital camera alongside a roll of undeveloped film. My excitement surged again at this unexpected treasure. This find felt significant, perhaps it was fate steering me toward something profound. As anticipation bubbled within me, a voice broke through my thoughts like thunder on a clear day. You shouldn't be here alone. My heart plummeted into my stomach as I whipped around to face an unfamiliar figure standing just beyond the trees. The stranger's face wore an expression that sent shivers down my spine, concern mixed with something else that made me uneasy. This trail isn't safe, they warned softly but firmly. I'm just exploring, I replied defensively, clutching the bag closer to myself as if it were a shield against their judgment. You don't understand what lurks here, they insisted, stepping closer with urgency in their tone. My mind raced with questions about their intentions and knowledge about this place. What did they mean by lurks? Was there danger hidden beneath these serene woods? The tension in the air thickened as silence fell between us for what felt like an eternity. Look, they finally said after clearing their throat nervously, I've been coming here for years, trust me when I say this place isn't what it seems. At that moment, doubt crept into my mind like shadows lengthening at dusk. My eyes darted back to the bag clutched tightly in my hands. The camera now felt heavier than before. What do you mean? My voice trembled slightly as apprehension seeped through every word. There are stories about people getting lost or worse, things happening that can't be explained. Their gaze flickered toward the dense trees surrounding us as if expecting something sinister to emerge from within. Despite their warnings echoing ominously in my ears, defiance surged once more within me. Who were they to dictate how I experienced this world? I appreciate your concern, I managed to say while trying to sound composed despite feeling anything but calm inside. As they opened their mouth again to argue further, a rustle nearby interrupted us both, a sound unnatural amidst nature's symphony that made chills race down my spine. Instinctively, we turned our heads toward its source simultaneously. I told you, they whispered urgently now, fear seeped into their voice as we both stood frozen in place staring into the shadows ahead where darkness loomed ominously just beyond reach. My heart pounded loudly against my ribcage as adrenaline surged through me, the thrill of adventure warring with instinctual caution screaming at me to flee this unsettling encounter. Wouldn't running mean abandoning everything I'd hoped for? But staying could lead to unforeseen dangers lurking just out of sight. The tension between us escalated like charged electricity filling the air while uncertainty hung heavily over our heads, a battle between curiosity and dread swirling violently within me like storm clouds converging on a peaceful sky. Then suddenly breaking free from this standoff came another sound, a faint crack followed by an unmistakable whisper carried on the wind that echoed eerily through trees surrounding us, "Help, me." Instinctively gripping onto both the bag and camera tighter than before sent shivers coursing through every fiber of my being. I knew then that whatever awaited ahead would demand far more than courage alone could provide. And so it was at that moment when clarity struck amid confusion. Perhaps some paths shouldn't be taken alone after all. If you're intrigued by this unfolding story, leave your like. I remember the way the air shifted around me, thick with an unsettling energy as I stood there clutching the camera bag. The stranger's warning echoed in my mind, but curiosity propelled me deeper into the forest. I took a few hesitant steps away from them, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The vibrant greens of the trees surrounded me like a cocoon, yet an undercurrent of something sinister tugged at my senses. As I walked further along the path, I noticed a burned bridge looming ahead. The skeletal remains of its planks jutted out like jagged teeth against the backdrop of thriving foliage. It was an eerie sight. No other signs of wildfire marred the area, yet this charred structure suggested devastation. My breath caught in my throat. What could have caused such destruction? The contrast was disconcerting, as if nature itself were hiding dark secrets beneath its surface. Suddenly, a strange mist caught my eye, rising from the creek nearby. It shimmered in the dappled sunlight, swirling in unnatural patterns that made me hesitate mid-step. My camera hung loosely in my grasp as I stared at it, entranced by its ethereal dance. Was this a trick of light or something more? I felt compelled to investigate further despite an instinctual warning that prickled at my skin. Tentatively, I approached the water's edge. The mist curled around like fingers beckoning me closer, yet a voice inside urged caution. As I knelt down to get a better look, I caught sight of deep gouges on a nearby tree trunk, marks so precise they resembled a twisted mouth frozen in silent agony. Panic surged through me as I traced their outline with trembling fingers. This couldn't be natural. An unsettling feeling crawled up my spine as I realized these wounds told stories far darker than anything I could imagine. My heart raced as I stumbled back, searching for something familiar to ground myself. That's when something metallic glinted half buried in the ash surrounding the remnants of the bridge. It was small and oddly shaped, clearly not part of any park equipment I'd ever seen before. Curiosity mingled with dread as I crouched down to retrieve it, a strange device etched with symbols that seemed to writhe and change under my gaze. I felt a chill seep into my bones as I turned it over in my hands. Whatever this was had no place here. A low growl echoed from deeper within the woods, vibrating through the ground and reverberating in my chest like thunder rolling across a stormy sky. The sound sent adrenaline racing through me. It was primal and guttural, a stark reminder that I was intruding upon something ancient and untamed. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity, paralyzed by fear and fascination alike. Each breath came quicker than the last. Every heartbeat thrummed loudly in my ears as I surveyed my surroundings for any sign of movement. Shadows danced between the trees, teasing me with glimpses of something just beyond reach. The air became thick with tension, every rustle sounded amplified, a predator stalking its prey. At that moment, instinct kicked in. I needed to leave this place before whatever lingered within those woods turned its attention toward me. Clutching both the camera bag and the strange device tightly against my chest, I turned on my heel and sprinted back toward where I'd left the stranger. As I ran back through the forest path, the vibrant colors now muted by a growing sense of dread, I couldn't shake off how alive everything felt moments ago compared to now when each step echoed uneasily against damp earth beneath me. My lungs burned with exertion. Still, adrenaline propelled me forward until finally bursting back into view where I'd encountered that mysterious figure earlier. But they were gone, disappeared without a trace into the thickening shadows cast by towering trees above me. "Hello?" My voice trembled as it cut through silence that enveloped me like fog, an oppressive blanket pressing down on all sides. No answer came back except for that faint growl echoing somewhere deep within those ominous woods, a reminder that perhaps some doors are best left unopened and some paths untraveled. In that moment, standing there alone amid whispers carried by cold winds, I understood, nature can cradle beauty but also conceal horrors too terrifying to confront directly. My resolve wavered. Should I delve deeper into mystery or turn away from these haunting discoveries? As uncertainty clawed at my mind with icy fingers gripping tighter around hope fading fast, I realized one thing clearly: whatever secrets lay hidden within those woods wanted nothing more than to keep them buried, and maybe even claim another lost soul along their winding trails. Time seemed suspended, yet urgency pulsed beneath every heartbeat, urging escape from this unsettling paradise where shadows whispered tales meant only for those brave enough, or foolish enough, to listen. I remember the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I tracked the wounded deer. Its pained grunts echoed in the stillness, urging me toward a clearing that felt both inviting and foreboding. Each step seemed to pull me further away from the safety of reason and into the wild unknown. The trees parted, revealing an impossible sight, a grotesque tree pulsating with reddish sacs that jutted out like gnarled limbs reaching for something just beyond reach. My curiosity piqued. I felt a magnetic pull toward it, but dread began to creep into my thoughts. Suddenly, a sharp voice sliced through the air. "Get down!" The command was so forceful that it jolted me from my daze. Before I could react, something hard shoved me violently to the ground, my head hitting the soft earth with a thud that momentarily disoriented me. I blinked against the sudden blur of my surroundings. When my vision cleared, I saw Ranger Victoria Chen kneeling beside me, her face set in grim determination. She held what appeared to be a modified flamethrower aimed directly at the grotesque tree pulsating ominously before us. Confusion swirled in my mind as her expression conveyed urgency and an unsettling depth of knowledge about this place. "Stay low," she urged, her eyes darting toward the tree as if expecting it to attack at any moment. I felt my heart race. Everything I thought I knew about nature was crumbling around me like dry leaves underfoot. "What is that?" My voice trembled despite my best efforts to sound composed. The chaos around us drowned out any semblance of calm. "That," she said through clenched teeth, "is one of the hollow oaks." Her tone was steady but laced with fear. "They're not just trees, they're ancient horrors that mimic their surroundings." My mind struggled to comprehend her words while adrenaline thrummed through me. "Hollow oaks?" I echoed, feeling reality slip away like sand through my fingers. "What do you mean? That's not possible." As if responding to my disbelief, the tree quivered and released a low growl that reverberated through the air, sending shivers down my spine. It was alive. Panic surged within me as I scanned our surroundings for an escape route. "Listen carefully," Victoria pressed on, her gaze locked onto mine with an intensity that demanded attention. "There's a secret organization dedicated to fighting these things, the Rangers." Her voice barely masked her urgency as she explained how they had been battling these entities for decades, each encounter more dangerous than the last. I shook my head in disbelief. It felt surreal, an absurd twist in what was supposed to be a simple escape into nature. Everything I believed about wildlife and conservation shattered in an instant. This world wasn't just about hiking trails and serene landscapes, it harbored dark secrets that lurked behind every shadow. Why didn't anyone warn us? I blurted out, frustration boiling over as anger replaced fear momentarily. "Because no one knows," she snapped back with desperation lacing her voice. "People think nature is safe, it's not. These hollow oaks can lure you in and trap you forever." The weight of her words crashed over me like waves against rocks, leaving me gasping for clarity amid this storm of confusion. Before I could respond, another growl emanated from deep within the woods, the sound primal and raw, causing Victoria's grip on her weapon to tighten instinctively. She turned slightly toward me and whispered urgently, we have to move. Follow me. My instincts kicked in as I scrambled to follow her lead despite feeling like a marionette pulled by unseen strings of fear and disbelief. We zigzagged between trees as we fled deeper into the woods, their shadows stretched ominously around us like fingers reaching for prey. As we ran, fragments of information swirled in my mind, things Victoria had said about mimicking horrors and ancient secrets that twisted reality itself. Each new revelation felt like another piece being chipped away from my understanding of this world until all that remained was chaos and uncertainty. Finally reaching a small clearing hidden among dense foliage, Victoria halted abruptly and gestured for silence. My breath came quick and shallow as we crouched behind thick underbrush, our eyes fixed on something lurking just beyond our line of sight, a figure cloaked in darkness moving stealthily among the trees. "What is that?" My voice barely broke through the tension-filled air surrounding us. "I don't know," she replied tersely, peering cautiously through gaps in the foliage while gripping her weapon tightly as if it were a lifeline tethering her sanity amidst madness. In that moment, a deep sense of dread washed over me, every instinct screamed at me to flee back home where life made sense again, but this was no longer just about escaping monotony or seeking adventure, it was about survival against forces beyond comprehension. The figure moved closer into view, its features obscured by shadows, but there was something distinctly wrong about its presence, something unnatural flickered just beneath its surface like oil slicked across water reflecting broken fragments of light. "What should we do?" I whispered urgently, terrified yet entranced by this unfolding nightmare lurking beyond our grasp. Victoria's eyes narrowed as she focused intently on whatever horror approached us with silent intent, her resolve unwavering even when reality felt impossibly warped around us like twisted branches entwining our fates together forevermore. I remember the earth trembling beneath my feet as the hollow oak, enraged by Victoria's earlier attack, began to move. Its tree-like limbs twisted and reached out, grasping at the surrounding forest with an unholy fury. Panic surged through me, forcing my instincts into overdrive. I glanced at Victoria, her eyes blazing with determination. She signaled for me to stay low and observe, her urgent command penetrating the chaos around us. With trembling hands, I struggled to stabilize my camera, the lens quivering like my heart. This was no longer just a moment to capture, it was a battle for survival. The creature emitted a ghastly shriek that pierced the air, a sound of profound agony mingled with fury, sending chills racing down my spine. I heard the whoosh of flames as Victoria unleashed another fiery blast from her weapon, igniting the pulsating sacs on the beast's grotesque form. The flames licked hungrily at its bark-like skin, revealing glowing patches that pulsed in rhythm with the creature's tortured screams. I noticed that fire seemed to weaken it, this detail rushed through my mind as I called out to Victoria. "It's vulnerable to fire." My voice came out hoarse but clear amidst the chaos of roaring flames and crackling wood. "Keep an eye on its movements," she shouted back, her focus unwavering as she adjusted her aim, preparing for another strike. My pulse raced, every second felt like an eternity as I watched the creature thrash against its bonds of flame and rage. It was both mesmerizing and terrifying, its limbs flailing wildly, sending splinters flying into the air like shrapnel. I felt dread creeping in again as I took in the horror before me, the once mighty tree now reduced to a monstrous entity desperate for survival. Each blast from Victoria's flamethrower lit up our surroundings in bursts of orange and yellow, casting long shadows that danced ominously among the trees. The world around us felt alive yet utterly foreign, nature had transformed into something primal and threatening. Suddenly, one of its gnarled branches lunged toward me with terrifying speed. I ducked instinctively and rolled away just in time. My heart pounded in my chest as adrenaline surged through me like wildfire. This was no ordinary hike, it was a fight for our lives against an ancient horror that defied everything I thought I understood about this forest. Victoria kept firing bursts of flame, her movements precise and calculated despite the chaos surrounding us. I felt a strange mix of fear and admiration for her bravery as she faced this creature head-on while urging me to document every moment, the tension between survival and revelation hanging heavy in the air. With each successive blast igniting parts of the creature's flesh, it became increasingly erratic, thrashing more violently than before. The ground trembled further beneath our feet as if nature itself were rebelling against this unnatural being. I realized then that we were not just fighting for ourselves, we were battling against something that had long been hidden from humanity, a dark secret buried deep within these woods. "Get back!" Victoria shouted suddenly as she launched another incendiary barrage at the hollow oak's core. The heat radiated toward me even from a distance, forcing me back against a nearby tree for cover. My breath came faster now, uncertainty gnawed at my resolve while desperation fueled my actions. I saw how its form began collapsing under repeated assaults, pieces crumbling away like ash caught in a fierce wind, but still it writhed defiantly against its impending doom. A low growl emanated from deep within its twisted trunk. It was alive. The noise vibrated through my bones and echoed within me, a reminder that this wasn't merely an encounter, it was a confrontation with something ancient. In that moment of chaotic clarity amidst danger, something clicked inside me: I could help. Perhaps not directly wielding fire or weaponry like Victoria, but by capturing evidence of this battle unfolding before me. With renewed determination coursing through my veins, I steadied myself once more behind my camera lens. As Victoria unleashed yet another round of flames upon the creature's pulsating sacs, illuminating everything around us in brilliant light, I focused intently on capturing this extraordinary confrontation, the very essence of survival clashing against darkness, and pressed down on the shutter button with resolve. In that instant, the world fell silent except for crackling flames consuming what remained of our adversary. My heart swelled with pride knowing I was part of something far greater than myself, a fight against nature's hidden terrors alongside those brave enough to face them head-on. The ashes settled slowly into an eerie quietness blanketing our surroundings like fog rolling over hills at dawn. Exhaustion crashed over me suddenly, fatigue pulled heavily at my limbs after witnessing such raw power unleashed before us, a battle one yet tinged with uncertainty about what lay ahead. Today marked not only an encounter with darkness but also growth within myself, a realization that courage could manifest unexpectedly when faced with adversity, and perhaps understanding these woods would never be quite what they seemed again. I sat on a fallen log, the dampness seeping through my jeans as I watched Victoria meticulously clean my flamethrower. The metallic scent of burnt things lingered in the misty Maine air, a reminder of the chaos we had just escaped. My mind raced, replaying the horrifying encounter with the hollow oak. Each moment seemed etched into my memory like a haunting photograph. I took a deep breath, attempting to ground myself, but the weight of uncertainty pressed down harder than ever. "You can go back to Chicago, or you can join us," Victoria said, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. The words hung in the air, each syllable heavy with implications. I could feel their impact reverberating within me, forcing me to confront not just my past but also my future. The allure of returning to my old life clashed violently with the thrill of this new path she was offering, a path fraught with danger yet tinged with purpose. I thought about my old cubicle life, those gray walls closing in around me day after day. I could almost hear the monotonous clatter of keyboards and see the endless spreadsheets that had consumed years of my existence. Was that really all there was? I had chased nothing but an illusion of success while time slipped through my fingers like sand. The hollow feeling of wasted years weighed heavily on my chest as I struggled to envision stepping back into that world. The faces of the hikers I'd seen earlier flashed before my eyes, oblivious and carefree. They ambled into such beauty without a clue about the lurking horrors that lay just beyond their view. A pang of injustice struck me. They wandered through vibrant landscapes unaware that darkness often thrives in places where light appears most inviting. My heart sank at the thought that I could have been one of them, blissfully ignorant and blissfully lost. Victoria's scars caught my attention then. They adorned her forearms like badges of honor, each one telling a story of commitment and sacrifice. In that moment, they ignited something deep within me, a flicker of purpose amidst the chaos swirling in my mind. It was as if those marks were calling out for redemption from my aimless existence. I recognized that joining her could mean fighting against forces far more sinister than any corporate ladder I'd ever attempted to climb. I extended my hand toward Victoria, feeling an electric charge course between us as our gazes locked. Her hand was calloused and strong, a testament to battles fought and endured. This wasn't just an offer, it was a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters where I had felt myself drowning for far too long. "Let's do this," I said, surprising even myself with how resolute I sounded amidst the uncertainty swirling around us. My voice steadied as I made a choice that would irrevocably alter the course of my life. In shaking her hand, I felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with fear. There was no turning back now. The forest around us seemed to hold its breath as if acknowledging our decision, a pact made in defiance against what lurked within its depths. It wasn't merely about facing creatures born from nightmares anymore, it was about confronting everything I had run from, my complacency, fears, and regrets. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the trees, rustling leaves and carrying whispers that felt both eerie and invigorating at once. Nature itself seemed alive with possibility as shadows danced along the forest floor. It was as if every element conspired to usher me into this new reality where danger met purpose head-on. With renewed determination coursing through me like wildfire, I stood up from the log and brushed off remnants of doubt still clinging to me like cobwebs from yesterday's worries. This wasn't simply an escape from Chicago, it was an embrace of something deeper than myself. Victoria nodded approvingly at our newfound alliance before motioning for us to move forward together into uncharted territory, the unknown ahead filled with both trepidation and hope. As we ventured deeper into the woods side by side, each step resonated with unyielding resolve. My heart hammered against my ribcage, adrenaline surged through every vein as anticipation electrified the air around us. In this moment, the juxtaposition between fear and exhilaration, I realized that true freedom didn't lie in avoiding risk but rather in embracing it fully despite its inherent dangers. The path ahead twisted like fate itself, darkness interspersed with flickers of light guiding us onward into whatever awaited us beyond those towering trees where secrets thrived beneath layers upon layers of leaves untouched by civilization. I learned then that choosing to fight alongside Victoria meant stepping outside comfort zones long since abandoned, and perhaps finding pieces of myself I never knew existed amidst shadows dancing wildly across unfamiliar ground. And so we walked, two souls intertwined by destiny amid whispers echoing through ancient woods, a journey towards something undeniably greater than mere survival beckoning on the horizon ahead. I remember the first light of dawn filtering through the trees, casting a warm glow on the damp earth beneath my feet. A new day had arrived, and with it came the promise of learning and transformation. Victoria stood before me, her expression serious as she prepared for our training. I could feel the anticipation buzzing in the air. Today was going to be different. I was no longer just a lost soul wandering through life, I was becoming part of something greater. First lesson, she said, her voice steady and commanding, is to recognize what's real and what's not. I listened intently as she pointed out subtle changes in the environment around us. Those trees over there? They're mimics. My eyes widened as I focused on them, noticing how they subtly shifted their coloration. One trunk appeared almost silver in the morning light while another flickered from brown to green. It was as if they were alive, deceiving my senses with their false appearances. I took a few cautious steps closer, feeling an unsettling chill creep down my spine. Victoria watched me closely, her gaze piercing yet encouraging. "Trust your instincts," she instructed. "Nature has a way of disguising danger." With that, I turned my attention back to the forest, focusing on each sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, and tried to differentiate between what was natural and what might be hiding beneath the surface. As we moved deeper into this new terrain shrouded in mist, I practiced tracking by following faint trails left behind by unseen creatures. My boots sank into the spongy ground, leaving impressions that quickly vanished as if nature wished to erase my presence entirely. Each crunch of twigs underfoot echoed like a heartbeat against the silent backdrop surrounding us. "Feel that?" Victoria asked suddenly, halting mid-step. I nodded instinctively. There was something off about the air, thick and heavy with anticipation. "That's when you know you're close," she added cryptically before leading me toward a clearing where sunlight broke through the canopy above. In this serene spot lay an array of ancient texts spread across a makeshift table fashioned from fallen branches. The pages were brittle and yellowed with age, an artifact from a time long forgotten. As I picked one up carefully, its weight felt heavy with history and secrets untold. Words danced across my mind: stone wraiths, water weavers. Each name sent chills racing down my spine. These weren't mere stories but warnings etched in ink. "What are these?" I asked, unable to mask my curiosity. "Records of encounters," Victoria replied gravely as she leaned closer to examine one of the texts with me. "The creatures that haunt these woods have been documented for centuries." My heart raced at the implications. Hidden within those pages were tales that could spell doom for anyone unaware of their existence. I spent hours poring over these accounts alongside Victoria, my mind spinning with possibilities and fears alike. The more I read, the more vivid each description became: monsters lurking just out of sight but always present in whispered rumors among those who knew better than to dismiss them as mere folklore. "Look here," she said suddenly, pointing at an article clipped from an old newspaper. My breath caught as I saw headlines detailing mysterious disappearances, hikers who ventured into these woods only to vanish without a trace. Their faces stared back at me from faded photographs, a haunting reminder that danger was never too far away. I didn't realize, my voice trailed off as dread pooled in my stomach like lead. "They're always around," Victoria affirmed softly but firmly. "The darkness doesn't discriminate." Her words settled heavily upon me. This wasn't just about surviving anymore, it was about understanding our enemy. With each passing moment spent training under her watchful eye, I felt a growing sense of competence blooming within me, a stark contrast to how lost I had been just days ago in that cubicle hellscape of Chicago. My hands grew steadier as I disassembled and cleaned my flamethrower meticulously, each piece fitting together like parts of an intricate puzzle designed for grim necessity. Victoria observed closely as I worked. Her nods of approval served only to fuel my determination further still, igniting a fire within me that mirrored those flames we had unleashed upon our enemies not so long ago. "We need every advantage we can get," she reminded me during one break between exercises while wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her hand. She seemed unyielding even under pressure. I took that sentiment to heart as we continued our training regimen over days filled with sweat-soaked shirts and aching muscles, a testament not merely to physical endurance but also mental resilience against looming threats hidden beneath layers upon layers of roots and bark surrounding us daily. The whispers grew louder each time we encountered unfamiliar terrain, a constant reminder that danger lurked nearby even when it seemed absent altogether. The shadows danced tauntingly at their edges, waiting patiently for moments when attention waned or resolve faltered. "Stay alert," Victoria would call out whenever silence hung too thickly in air. It became our mantra over time, a reminder echoing through forest depths, reminding me constantly not only what lay ahead but also what awaited us behind every corner shrouded in mystery, waiting patiently for unwary souls like mine drawn toward intrigue regardless of consequence faced thereafter. Today marked yet another turning point. It wasn't merely about survival anymore, it was embracing responsibility for protecting others who wandered blindly into treacherous realms they couldn't fathom existed beyond ordinary sight alone. And so we trained tirelessly side by side, becoming bonded warriors against forces unseen yet ever present, a camaraderie forged amidst uncertainty, bringing forth strength born not solely from brute force but rather knowledge gained through shared experiences, illuminating paths once concealed by darkness. At last understanding began dawning upon me. It extended far beyond mere existence itself. It meant actively engaging life head-on, accepting both fear alongside exhilaration, crafted anew, weaving threads together, forming something greater than myself ever imagined possible before. I remember the thrill of dawn breaking through the dense canopy above, illuminating my path in Arkham, Massachusetts. The air was crisp and fragrant with the scent of pine, invigorating my senses as I adjusted the weight of my camera bag on my shoulder. Now it shared space with a compact flare gun and a modified flamethrower, an unusual blend that felt oddly comforting. Each piece of equipment served as a reminder of my new role. I wasn't just a wanderer anymore, but a protector patrolling this untamed wilderness. As I moved cautiously through the underbrush, I scanned the tree line with sharpened focus. My eyes, now trained to spot subtle inconsistencies in the environment, darted between shadows and shafts of light filtering through leaves. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, their shapes shifting in ways that once would have escaped me entirely. I felt a sense of purpose swell within. Every crackle of twigs beneath my boots echoed like a heartbeat in this living tapestry. Suddenly, a faint rustling reached my ears, a whisper carried on the wind that sent chills racing down my spine. Instinctively, I reached for my flare gun, fingers trembling slightly around its grip. What ancient horror might be stirring nearby? My heart raced as I crouched low behind an outcropping of rocks, each breath measured and deliberate as I prepared for whatever threat awaited me. I recalled the moments spent in Chicago, the sterile glow of fluorescent lights, the sound of keyboards clattering away in mindless repetition. Those memories felt like echoes from another life now, faded snapshots overshadowed by the reality I faced here among these trees. My resolve solidified. I was no longer just an observer but an active guardian against forces beyond human comprehension. A sharp crack broke through the stillness as branches snapped somewhere to my right. My senses heightened, adrenaline coursed through me like wildfire, igniting every nerve ending. The forest around me seemed alive with possibility and peril alike. Every shadow held potential danger, every rustle could herald something sinister lurking just beyond view. Cautiously emerging from behind cover, I edged closer to investigate. The undergrowth parted easily beneath my careful steps, each motion was deliberate and calculated. As I approached the source of the disturbance, an unsettling thought crossed my mind: what if I wasn't ready for what lay ahead? But there was no turning back now. I had chosen this path. The tension hung thick in the air as I peered into a small clearing bathed in dappled sunlight. There amidst twisted roots lay remnants of forgotten remnants, discarded objects that told stories long buried by time, an old compass, rusting and worn, its needle trembling yet steadfastly pointing northward despite its state, a cracked mirror reflecting fractured glimpses of reality distorted by age, and an empty frame with no picture left inside, a haunting reminder that some things are better left unseen. "Keep your guard up," Victoria's voice echoed in my mind as if she were standing beside me still, her warnings ringing clear even now amidst all these unknowns surrounding me. I carefully picked up the compass, feeling its weight in my palm, a relic holding not just physical value but also symbolic significance, a guide leading me deeper into this new life where danger thrived but so too did purpose. As I turned it over thoughtfully in my hands, another rustling sound erupted nearby, a more frantic noise this time that made my pulse quicken anew. It felt primal, something desperate moving through the underbrush toward me. My instincts kicked into high gear as adrenaline surged again. Without thinking further, I raised the flared gun toward where shadows danced unnaturally along the tree line and steadied myself for confrontation, a heartbeat drumming loudly against all reason urging me onward despite fear clawing at edges of consciousness relentlessly. Then it happened, a creature burst forth from thickets. It was lithe and agile with elongated limbs swathed in dark fur that shimmered unsettlingly like oil against sunlight filtering down upon us both. Its eyes glowed with unnatural intelligence, a predatory gleam flickering beneath layers of instinctual cunning. In that instant everything else melted away, the past life faded completely into oblivion leaving only raw survival instincts focused solely on what stood before me now threatening not just myself but perhaps others wandering unwittingly into its domain. I squeezed the trigger instinctively releasing a bright flash followed by an explosive crack. The flare shot out illuminating everything around us like midday sun exploding into darkness momentarily dispelling shadows' grasp upon reality itself revealing truths hidden until then. Forcing myself to stand firm against overwhelming fear gripping tightly at heartstrings woven deep within flesh, I watched closely as flames danced upon creature's form consuming it slowly revealing grotesque features previously obscured by darkness, all while twisting its body into contorted shapes writhing against fiery embrace unrelenting. With every second passing by, I learned something invaluable. Courage doesn't mean absence of fear, it means acting despite it regardless what lurks beyond sight or sanity's grasp. Finally standing tall amid chaos surrounding us, I could feel how deeply transformative this journey had become, not merely about defending against unseen terrors lurking within forest depths, but rather embracing responsibility for protecting others who ventured unknowingly toward perilous fates awaiting them beyond thresholds drawn tightly closed by nature herself. Today, when I look back at how far I've come from that cramped cubicle filled only with dread, I realize now purpose fuels existence far greater than any corporate ladder ever could, the realization lighting pathways toward understanding deeper connections forged between humanity itself and forces long forgotten yet still present today, waiting patiently for those brave enough not only confront but also challenge them head-on. And so here we are amid whispers echoing through ancient woods, my heart steady knowing this fight extends beyond mere survival. It encompasses becoming vigilant guardians watching over realms hidden from ordinary sight, ensuring hope endures even amidst darkest nights. Did you like this story? Leave a like, comment your thoughts and subscribe for more stories.